Afternoon, everybody. How you going? So we're going to have a bit of a chat about the Hinkler candidates for the federal election, and I'm going to be reading an article from the Newsmail, Fraser Coast Chronicle, that was in the Courier Mail, because we no longer have papers up here. It's all combined into the Courier Mail. Candidates speak out. One thing I'm going to note straight away is the Courier Mail did not publish who the ALP candidate was, and they did not publish who the Greens candidate was. I can't make any statement about the Greens candidate. I don't know who she actually is, haven't really heard anything about them, and so I don't know, I haven't seen anything from her. Right, all I know is it's a female. Okay, the ALP candidate is Jason Skanes, of which I will happily share his thoughts that he wrote afterwards, because the Murdoch press attacked him as a recycled candidate. Funny that, hey? So, I want to set some ground rules here, and I want to make some things very clear to people. I do not belong to any political party. Never have, and never will. I'm not here vying for votes for a $200,000 job. I'm on a disability support pension, as broke as anybody else here, right? Struggling through my own health issues. I'm, as in life-threatening health issues at the moment. I'm struggling with exhaustion and all sorts of things, and medical specialist appointments and things like that. But for the last nearly 7 years, I've stood up and fought against the cashless debit card all the way through. And we've always made it very clear, and all of my team have been the same. We will stand by the parties that vote to get rid of the card. And we judge that on their voting record, not on propaganda. We're not propagandists. Everything we publish is fact-checked. Most of it comes from the government. If I'm sounding a little bit cirky, I've been trolled by UAP this morning in the media and on my own page and in my inbox here. So I'm not in a very good mood, okay? And like having a UAP supporter demanding that I make contact with their candidate, when I've actually had contact with their candidate already, gave her 2 hours of my time for free. I'm not getting paid. Told her about the card and what it's been doing to people. But yeah, okay. Apparently it's my job to reach out to parties who don't support us for whatever reason. I don't know why. So I want to make it clear. We will not vote for parties that have voted for the cashless debit card. It is simple. We are No Cashless Debit Card Australia. We will stand by the parties that have voted to stop the card. Period. Right? Not, we don't support it, but your bosses have already put it through. We're not going to play that game. They don't have, I work on actions louder than words, and I have the voting histories and the submissions and the Hansard to back up how the politicians have voted. And Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts and Craig Kelly, right, have made it very clear how they voted. And we've got so much video evidence, right? And when I can, I'll dig up the one where Pauline is on national TV pushing for a rollout of the cashless debit card. So when their candidates come at me and start going, oh no, we don't want it, well, you haven't got a choice. Your boss has already voted for it. It's already gone through. So let's get started. Amy Burns is Animal Justice Party. I don't know a lot about her. She's a young person. She's made no comment about cashless debit card or any other policies apart from animals and helping animals. So there's really not a lot to say there. She's more climate orientated, wildlife, and things like that. So, Zach Menhanet. I have a problem with his name. Now, this was interesting. I'll read what he says here, and then I'll talk about him. Zach Menhanet has been Bundaberg's resident for 8 years. All right? Yeah. Thanks, Donna. Yeah. He said his top issues would be ending COVID mandates, helping pensioners, supporting farming, jobs, infrastructure, affordable energy, and ensuring water supply. Craig Kelly, Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts voted against protecting fresh water in the Senate. So I don't know how he's going to ensure water supplies and protecting it, because they've already voted officially to not protect fresh water. Okay. COVID mandates, well, I don't go down that track, because we've been in a pandemic, and I'm sorry, but national health takes priority over personal freedoms in that respect, especially when you haven't had your human rights stripped away from you like cashless debit card holders have, and you haven't had your legal rights stripped away in law, and your protections are gone. Yet one nation took those away and voted those things away in law. Right? I do not follow fake freedom fighters like One Nation. Right? Simple as that. Helping pensioners. How does voting through a policy that puts age pensioners on a cashless debit card help pensioners? But you scream, oh no, it's not for the pensioners, but because of Pauline's voting, age pensioners are now on the card in the Cape York. Right? Dear, oh dear. So he says he will advocate for a $100 a week rise with One Nation under the work bonus scheme that will allow pensioners to earn up to $13,000 a year without reducing their pension. Like a work bonus scheme is currently $7,800 annually. Sorry, but what about just raising the age pension? The idea of age pension is you retire from work, not be expected to go out and still have to work to make ends meet. I do agree that if people want to go out and earn some extra money, they shouldn't be means tested on it at all. Because guess what? The politicians' pensions aren't. Right? But they're focusing on only looking after age pensioners. They're not interested in the unemployed, the disabled, the carers, the students, anybody under age pension. They're going after the age pension vote. They think that that's going to help them, right? Mr. Menahat drew attention to more than 53 million hectares of prime agricultural land is held for foreign interests. Mr. Menahat needs to understand that when it was a time for the Kidman stations were put up for sale, right, that One Nation blocked an Australian agricultural conglomerate from being able to buy that land and keep it wholly and solely owned as Australian land. And instead, they blocked the Australian contingent, but they allowed Gina Reinhardt with her Chinese partners to buy it instead. I don't call that protecting agricultural land or anything like that. I don't get it. This equates to 14% of Australia's total 372 million hectares of agricultural land. One Nation and I will ban any further sale of freehold farmland to foreign investors and limit the sale of leasehold farmland to a tenure of 25 years. Oh well, whatever. Mr. Menahat says One Nation would increase the national apprenticeship scheme whereby first-year apprenticeships receive a 75% wage subsidy, followed by 50% of the second year and 25% of their third year. Mr. Menahat said water security was a top issue. How can you have water security when you've already voted down? Your party has already voted to not protect fresh water. And I'll get on to why in a minute, okay? Just remember, they voted against protecting fresh water. All right? One Nation will build new water infrastructure projects, including dams, Paradise Dam in particular, and increase the supply to Australian farmers and growing nation at a cost. Now, the Paradise Dam, the ALP state government and the federal government, ALP, if Labor get into federal government, the Paradise Dam will be instantly fixed. Alright, the ALP state government's already put in X amount, $100 million. Alright, so now I want to just, one of the things that One Nation's voted for is all the fracking, all the gas, all the coal. Miners need rights to water. They need access to fresh water in order to do that. In order to dig it up, burn it, and sell it off overseas and not pay taxes on it, right? They still need access to our water. So it's logical that parties that have voted against protection of fresh water, that vote for coal, gas and fracking, right, cannot really, hand on heart, turn around and say we're going to protect water, because you've already decided not to. You've already earmarked it for free rein for the mining companies. Now, I had a situation where Zach Menenhet's sponsored adverts were coming across my newsfeed, and I left him some comments about the cashless debit card, and because he's claiming that he doesn't support it, and that, you know, if he gets in, he's going to stop it up in Hinkler. He can't stop it. He can't vote against his own party, right? So this ended up with me being trolled by another person. I just kept putting up fact after fact after fact. Hansard, voting record, DSS stats as to who's on the card already, because One Nation is convinced it's only for people on job seeker, right? And that they've never voted for it for people to be on disability support pension, which is absolute rubbish, because when Pauline started voting for it, she was happy to put more people on the DSP. People on the DSP were already on it in Ceduna and Kununurra, and then in comes Pauline. People in Kalgoorlie and the Goldfields ended up on the card. Over 36 non-voluntary, right? And then they pushed it into Hinkler, which is the only region which is under 36. And at this time, because Minder has made it clear they want Hinkler to align with the other regions, but at this time, Hinkler is only job seeker, parenting payment, and youth allowance, okay? But at this time, it's the only region that's different to all the rest, apart from Cape York, that has no age cap and has now got age pensioners on it. Pauline Hanson and Malcolm Roberts and their candidates keep screaming, we didn't vote for that. But you did vote for it, because when you voted it through on the third reading, you voted through the whole parcel package, and that's what went through. Okay, so Christy Nash, United Australia Party. This lady rang me a few weeks back. You know, and wanted to know all about the cashless debit card. I gave her information about the card. She was trying so hard to get me on side. And I said, there's no way I will ever vote for a party that has voted for the card from the beginning. Well, what do you mean? Let's go back to Palmer's United Party 2014. Let's go back to Clive Palmer sitting or sleeping in the House of Reps. And the only time he turned up to vote on anything in the House of Reps was to repeal the mining resource tax, which is our money, right? It's supposed to be the financial return to this country for the people, okay? And to approve more mining stuff for him. Everything else to do with bills while he was there, while Jackie Lambie was under Palmer United Party, he dumped everything else on her shoulders in the Senate. And she voted through the cashless debit card to start it off with. Now, to be fair to Jackie, since she broke away from Palmer United Party and she set up the Lambie Network, and she's grown up a lot and she's gone out there and seen a lot, she stopped supporting the cashless debit card and voted against it in December 2020. She's since come out twice and said she won't vote for it again. Okay? So I'll give her that. But people need to understand the history. Now, Clive Palmer arrived on our doorstep at the last federal election, and his goal is to take votes away from Labor so that Labor can't get in, but that leaves the sitting member in power, which is exactly what happened in Hinkler last time. People voted for him, people voted for One Nation. Keith Pitt got to keep his seat by nearly 7%. And the cashless debit card was extended for Hinkler again, and it's since been extended again until December 2022, and it's been expanded into the Northern Territory, and it's completely screwed up the Cape York, and it's gone to age pensioners, and more people with disabilities are on it, and their carers. Okay, so Christy Nash, United, she grew up in the regional Victoria before making the move to Queensland in 1997. Excuse me. She's had multiple businesses in e-commerce and consultancy. Okay. Her current work focus is on business advisory and digital marketing, and she works with a number of Wide Bay businesses. Ms. Nash said she was running as she was frustrated with the current member. Everybody's frustrated with Keith Pitt. Voters are looking for a strong and credible alternative candidate because they still want to vote for conservative values but are fed up with the LNP. I don't really... yeah, okay. All right. She says she was Bundaberg based but had also lived in Hervey Bay. I'm very proud of the region I've chosen to call home since 2013, and the rich agricultural centre is famous for. I've always been impressed by the diverse opportunities the region offers for small businesses and the employment opportunities it provides to the community. Ms. Nash said her party had clear principles focused on strong economic, affordable cost of living and freedom to live in a democracy. Unless you're on a cashless debit card, then Pauline's removed your freedoms. Ms. Nash said her party had, I will be advocating for the policies to support these principles as they are vitally important to our region. I'm also very keen to tackle the range of issues that we seriously impacting our community, which locals have already raised with me. These include the cashless debit card, the rental crisis, mental health, frontline workers, water ownership, and bile coverage. So water ownership, again, she doesn't understand that her own party's already voted down to not protect fresh water. She doesn't understand, even though I spent 2 hours on the phone with her, that Pauline and Malcolm voted through the cashless debit card and will continue to vote for it. The language that Pauline has made no bones about using, how if you're on welfare, you have no rights. Please consider these things with these candidates. Of course, the Newsmail and the Fraser Coast Chronicle, right, didn't include other candidates. But what I didn't like was Christy Nash actually trolled me on the Newsmail page. That's not professional in my opinion. And then I have a troll come into my inbox, because that's how I describe people who just come in and start attacking me, right, as to demanding that I need to make contact with these people, that apparently I don't care about the people on the cashless debit card, that I'm a Labor stooge, blah, 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 right, and then I'm playing politics. Obviously that person doesn't know that I've been here for 7.5 years. I've been on the phone, even in message box today with the card holder. I've been on the phone at 2 o'clock in the morning with card holders. I've had people in my house that are on the card that are in hell of a mess. All right, we've done fundraisers to pay rents for card holders. We've gone to bat. We've protested. We've done everything we possibly can. This has been my life every day for the card holders, fighting for their rights, fighting for their freedoms, and fighting for their damn dignity as well. And fighting against the vilification of those people, their families and their kids. Right? I'm really annoyed today because Christy Nash, already gave her 2 hours of my time that I don't get paid for, right? And yet I get one of her supporters comes in and tells me I need to make time. I need to reach out to these parties. No, I don't. These parties, Craig Kelly voted for the cashless debit card. Craig Kelly voted to not protect fresh water, right? Craig Kelly has voted against raise the rate. Anything to do that's for people, these people have voted against. Anything that protects us as humans and our human rights, they've voted against. They've all voted for coal, fracking, gas and nuclear. They're all voting for corporates. They've all voted for the surveillance bills, right? The thing that frustrates me, okay, is that what really annoys me and what scares me is they will say anything under their freedom fighter things. They're misleading people. I'm afraid they're going to give cashless debit card holders false hope and trick them into voting for them, only to find Keith Pitt still in his seat at the end of the election and them still on a cashless debit card. And then all of a sudden Hinkler realigns with the rest of the country. The program isn't made permanent. Our social security system is completely sold off, and so are those people. And 6.6 million people go down the tube as well. We lose our Medicare, NDIS, our aged care. Everything's depleted. So many people have lost their lives because of this government with the support of Craig Kelly and One Nation all the way through. It's been punitive, cruel, and on top of that, I don't care what these candidates say. The party is xenophobic, bigoted, right, and classist and nationalist. People need to really understand the difference between patriotism and nationalism, right? I will never, and I've made it very clear on this page, I will never stand beside somebody that supports or stands with neo-Nazis. And both of those parties have and do. No, we don't do right-wing, right? Labor's not perfect, but they have the ability to scrap the card, and they've proven it with their voting record. It can be looked up as the proof. Voted no, voted no, voted no, voted no. Okay? The Greens have always voted against income management, and no one can ever take away the fight that Rachel C. would put up. Never. But it really worries me that they're getting into the heads of people based on freedoms because of the mandate stuff. But cashless debit card holders lost their freedoms. They didn't get the choice. These people, and they're anti-vax or pro-choice, there's the word, they had the choice. They had informed consent to make a decision. Do I do it? Do I don't do it? Forced cashless debit cards didn't get that. They didn't get any consultation, right? They got contracted to this company without their consent. A bank account was set up in their name without their consent. 80% of their income was put on that account without their consent. And the terms and conditions of this booklet make it very clear. They're not covered. Their privacy is not covered, right? Injury takes no responsibility for any financial loss, damages or injury they may cause you along the way. I know that there's people that have unalived themselves because of being forced onto this policy. I know there's hundreds of people that have been left homeless. Okay, one of my friends had a heart attack. She's 32 years old. Okay, she's now been left with permanent heart damage. You know, they finally let her off the card after they damn near killed her with the stress of rejecting her and the rubbish excuses to keep people on the card. And you'll see Alicia's post today on the page. She's now fighting with them because she was finally able to get off after 2 years, right, on a medical exemption. But they're holding the accounts open because, you know, If they get back in, LNP will see as a mandate to go permanent rollout, and everybody who's been taken off the card, which isn't very many, it's only about 300 or 400 out of 15,500, will suddenly, oh, there's a card in your letterbox again, your account's reactivated. You know? I'm not giving up the fight. Some people have been listening to my videos and they know that at the moment my health is not the best. They know that I'm very tired and they're going to play to that. They're playing to that on TikTok, all right, and stuff like that. I'm getting attacked by a lot of people who seem to think it's okay to pick on a disabled person who's terminally ill. It just shows more about their character than mine, and I'm not going to shut up about the cashless debit card. Amanda's not going to shut up about it, right? And our other admins are not going to stop either. We're going all the way through with this. Now, we made it very clear right at the beginning we would stand beside whoever would stand beside us, right? And Pauline Hanson's never stood up for the battlers and never stood with us to fight to protect the rights of Australian citizens in this. She's fully happy to have the segregation, all right, and the financial apartheid. She loves it. She loves the division, okay? All right, Craig Kelly's always been a Liberal man, and I'll dig it up for you. There's a video where he makes it very clear when he broke away from the Liberal Party, and he wasn't giving away whether he was going to be with UAP as yet. He made it very clear that it doesn't matter whether he was with UAP or whoever he sat as an independent, that he's always been with the Liberal Party and that he would not stop supply on any of their policies and that he would always vote and support their past policies and policies going forward. Okay, so that tells you very clear what Craig Kelly's up to. Now, Craig Kelly's mixed up with Clive Palmer. Clive Palmer has been standing with Campbell Newman, right, from the Liberal Democrats. I'm not sure what name they've got this week because under the AEC, their name's being disputed. So they may change their name to something else. Okay, so Clive Palmer comes out with Campbell Newman, who was one-term Liberal Premier of Queensland, and he just sold the state off, brought in some horrible laws against citizens and sacked most of our nursing staff because, you know, 20,000 people had to lose their jobs. And he didn't stay long. He was voted out very quickly. Not before signing off on the Adani contract while they were in a caretaker mode government, which really put state Labor in a big bind because Adani would have bankrupted Queensland if they'd not gone ahead with it. There's a dirty trick to pull, hey? But you've got to look after your mining mates' interests. That's what this is about in that respect. So Liberal Democrats, if they're so independent of the Liberal Party, I don't get it. Why did he turn up at a meeting with Pauline Hanson at Ipswich and they were all talking about working together? You see Campbell Newman with Clive Palmer on the TV and Clive Palmer saying, I'm backing him. And then you see Pauline Hanson and Campbell Newman in Ipswich and Pauline's going, we're going to work together. Okay? I just want to warn people about what's going on. Now, to get back to the ground, I'm not going to stop fighting against the card. And I'm going to keep screaming about the human rights and the legal rights breaches. Consumer law, all right, protections of payment, privacy, autonomy, self-determination, loss of statutory rights, loss of dignity, vilification of people on Social Security. I'm not going to shut up about those things. To the trolls that want to come at me, all right, if you think having a go at a disabled woman with a terminal illness makes you feel good, well, that's on you, not me. Okay? To have two candidates have a go at me in the last couple of weeks, all right, both of them, they've got no excuse. They've got all of the information about the cashless debit card. They've got the facts. They've got the legislation. I'm sorry that they can't understand legislation. Or they just going to just be told, like the Liberal Party does, here's your script, stick to it. Here's your script, stick to it. Right? One thing I'll say about Zach, he asked me about the figures about who was on the cashless debit card. When I started to give him that information, because I was quoting him all of the figures from around the country, Ceduna, East Kimberley, he cut me off. He goes, oh no, I'm only interested in my electorate. I went, hang on a minute. You're going for a federal seat, which means you're going to be making decisions about the whole country, not just your electorate. But you are not interested in what's going on outside your electorate. Not right. Not a proper person to put in the Senate. Because even though they're vying to go into the Senate to look after what their constituents want, they have to understand that the policies they're voting on aren't just for their electorate. They're for the whole country. Right? I didn't like that attitude from him. But then again, he's one nation. I'm going to be biased. Because all the way through, all I've heard is one nation be xenophobic, bigoted, classist, and downright nasty to people who are battlers. Okay? And a lot of people don't get to see it because they don't get to watch the Senate. You know? Kirsty Nash, I don't know her, apart from a 2-hour phone call to explain to her what the card does and what it doesn't do, and what Pauline voted for and what she didn't vote for, and to argue about the amendments that is absolutely totally irrelevant, because when it comes down to the third party reading, that's the important bit, right? They've got the information, but they can't just say they're going to go against what their parties have already voted for. I just worry that card holders are going to get sucked into voting against their best interests and end up stuck on the card. Okay? When we started this fight in 2015, the ALP supported the trials for Ceduna and East Kimberley. Then they changed their mind. Something to do with lots of pressure and the fact that I got to actually physically meet Bill Shorten and hand in the terms and conditions. We were able to give them a lot of information, and then a lot of other people were able to get heard, and Labor changed their support, and they stopped supporting it from 2017 onwards. And they took a unanimous vote in their caucus to scrap it in November 2019, and they've stood by their guns. Like I said at the beginning, we would always stand by parties that would vote to get rid of this card. There's a lot more on the line this election. Medicare, NDIS, aged care, right? Public schooling, public housing, public everything. Because we've just seen how the LNP government treats the average battler with the floods. Their mates' electorates get help and everybody else can drown. They couldn't give us stuff. We have a pandemic, right? What did they do? Oh, it's not a race. Yeah. They haven't looked after the people. They have no interest in looking after the people. They're looking after the billionaires, the mining magnates, the fossil fuel industry. That's it. You know. Kelly says here, they're not interested because they don't care. Pauline thinks welfare recipients shouldn't have rights. The best thing we can do is keep educating their supporters and hope they wake up to themselves. What makes me sad is many of their supporters are just as broke as me. They're on DSP, they're on Job Seeker, I don't understand it. In previous pre-polls that I've done, people have come up to me wearing One Nation shirts, come up to me because I'm wearing a no card shirt. Oh, we don't support the cashless debit card. It's like, well, how can you support Pauline? Well, what do you mean? I said, she voted for it. Oh, I didn't know that. But they think it's okay because Pauline, I mean, Malcolm's filling their heads full of the digital ID rubbish and going, oh, you know, the cashless debit card's not that bad, blah, blah, blah. They're playing down how bad it is. Right? So I got grumpy today because I got accused of being a propagandist. We have never published anything that's not a fact. All right? I'm talking here just with common sense. Why would you vote for somebody who's already voted to take your rights away? It's in black and white. It's in full-blown colour as well, right? Because the latest thing with the parliamentary is it shows a picture of every member who voted for a policy, a picture, a thumbnail, not just the names with eyes and nose written on it now. It's a full thing with every picture of them. All right, why would you vote for somebody who's not going to raise your standard of living, that's going to keep vilifying you in the Senate and running your family down? But they're going to always support the billionaires, right? And they're not going to look after, they're not going to help wages get higher or look after protections for workers any better, because they don't do that. That's not their thing. I was shocked when going through how they vote for you, right? Go onto that site, punch in Pauline Hanson's name, punch in Malcolm Roberts, go through all the relevant stuff. Okay? The water protection for one. The failure to protect koala habitats. Our koalas are now listed as endangered, but none of them voted to protect their habitats, because how can a miner go in and dig that up if there's a koala habitat in the middle of it? So you vote not to protect that koala habitat so that in the future the miners can come in and bulldoze all those trees, which we've seen done, and leave the koalas with nowhere to go. Because they don't care. Because koalas don't make enough money. Both Pauline and Clive are going on about anti-Chinese, yet Clive leases his mines to Chinese partners. That's mind-boggling, that is. Now, the LNP leased the port of Darwin to China. The LNP signed the China Free Trade Agreement. Yet Pauline's running around going on about Labor in China. It's like Labor haven't been in government for nearly, 9 years. Hello? Labor haven't done these things. Liberals have. I just want people to realise, because it's really scary times, that it's not just about you, right? It's about all of us. This time round when we're voting, we either vote for all of us, or if we're going to be selfish and go, my freedom's above your freedoms, your health care, your public housing, your right to housing, right, your right to social security. All I can say is to some people, don't be selfish. Right? Social security is a right under international human law and Australian law. And don't forget that. But you let these people in, and you let Keith Pitt and the LNP reign, and they'll sell it all off. They've sold most of it now, but ALP have said they'll scrap it. They'll scrap and repeal the legislation and bring social security back under government control where it should be. Clive Palmer throwing around the ideas of, we're going to pay pensioners extra. Right? And One Nation going, we'll let pensioners earn more. Pensioners are supposed to be retired. But you won't look after the little people, and you won't look after the kids coming out of school. You're missing out so many. The pensioners are the biggest cohort of people on social security, but that's why they're targeting them. But what about the rest of the people? Unless you're a mining magnate. You know what I mean? And don't forget, our petrol's gone through the roof, guys. The mining magnates aren't paying that $1 or so a litre in excise tax that we are all paying. Don't forget that. Clive Palmer's not paying it. Gina Rinehart's not paying it. Twiggy Forrester's not paying it. Okay? I don't have to say anything about Keith Pitt. His, the comments I've seen about him, do nothing after 9 years, Keith Pitt, because he's done nothing except for denigrate his electorate. He's made it very clear that he's classist. He doesn't look after the poor people in his electorate. He's made that very clear all the way along because he wanted this card. He pushed it in. He didn't give a damn about the consequences. And now he's sitting on an electorate that's the most disadvantaged in the country, has the highest homelessness rate in the country, and has the highest youth unalivement in the country, and he's still pushing the damn card. Okay? He doesn't care what it's done to the families that I know from Bundaberg that are on the card. He doesn't care what it's done to them mentally, what he's done to their spirit, and what he's done to them financially. He doesn't care how many have been made homeless. He doesn't care how many single mums have gone bankrupt from losing their finance on their vehicles. He doesn't care. You know? Oh, he scrapped a wind farm, did he, Ron? So, of course, that's right, because he's another one that doesn't believe in any renewables. He only believes in coal, gas, coking coal and fracking and nuclear. That's what he wants. That's all they want. That's all they want. Dig it up, burn it, sell it overseas, and they don't pay taxes on it. It's not right. It's not right. Our kids deserve to have some sort of an environment left. For those of you who don't know, I have pulmonary fibrosis. The first thing my doctor asked me was, where did I work and where have I been living? Because this is terminal and this is due to the environment that I live in and the things that I've breathed in my lifetime. I am a smoker, that could contribute to it, but there's other things. Where I've worked, the paint, you know, I worked at Holden's, the paint spray, all that sort of stuff, right? You know, our environment, I'm not a greenie, but I'm over 50. We can't have clean air. We can't have clean water. We can't look after our agricultural lands, and we can't look after our wildlife, right? We can't protect any of it. What will this planet do? That's it. But my main thing has always been the welfare, as in mental welfare of cashless debit card holders. And I don't want to be on the card. I don't want to be sold to a private company. I don't want my rights stripped, right? As I've done this before in the past. And it's all screwed up now because I've screwed it up in so many videos. But this piece of paper here is it's a facsimile of my citizenship papers. You know what I mean? And this is how cashless debit card does to your citizenship. It's worthless. You're not a citizen if you can't have the same rights as every other citizen in this country and not be protected by the same human rights as everybody else. How can you be classified as a citizen? You're excluded. You know? You're excluded from having the rights of a normal citizen, and that's not right. So, yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm going to go. That's the breakdown of the candidates that Courier Mail, Murdoch Press decided to. But now let's have a talk about Jason Skanes. Just bear with me for a minute because I've got to go to his page. All right. Because to be fair, Jason Skanes, we know Labor will scrap the card. Okay, Jason Skanes is a nice guy. I've met him before. And, of course, the Murdoch media are already attacking him for being a recycled candidate. It's like, seriously, lots of candidates run again. You know what I mean? Just bear with me because there's lots of messages coming in as well. As you could hear dinging. I'm looking for something. So you can go and check out Jason Skanes, seeing as he didn't get to do, he wasn't included in the candidates list. How convenient, right? So the Courier Mail finally did their release on him. Keith Pitts says he'll run on his record. So, yeah, okay. Seems he has the Courier Mail solution for the LNP failed MPs who failed to deliver and put out for the people of Hinkler first. All right, so on Wednesday, 9th of March, regarding Jason's announcement as the Labor candidate, they failed to even list him in the article on the 10th of March. You know what I mean? So they deliberately missed him out, which I think is disgusting. All right, well, what do you expect from Murdoch? Okay? Look, we all know what Labor stands up for at the moment, and if you don't, then I don't know how to help you, because yeah, they'll scrap the card, right? They'll try and rebuild our bloody Medicare back, and you won't have so many oldies dying in aged care, and they'll properly fund the NDIS for people, you know, and they'll do a federal ICAC. I think that scares a lot of the LNP. It'll be interesting to see how much shredding goes on if LNP lose government. You know what I mean? How much of... Because it's not going to be easy for ALP to find out everything. Everything's under commercial in confidence or commercial in cabinet. You know what I mean? So, but it's made it very clear they're not going to be investing in failed programs and products, you know, like the cashless debit card, and they're not going to do that. So, anyway, the Greens have always voted against income management of any form. You know, now, there are a few independents, but it depends on where you live as to whether you can vote for them. If you're in Tasmania, Andrew Wilkie, member for Clark, has always voted against the cashless debit card. He's a good independent. Okay? I'm trying to think. Australian Progressives, not sure where all their candidates are at the moment. But they are voting against the card. They're voting on a climate platform and social justice platform. Okay? You can go and look up their policies. So that's another independent that we trust. And a new one to come on board is Jane Caro with the Reason Party in Victoria. She's just announced that she's standing as an independent, and she's made it very clear she's against the card. She's done write-ups in the past against the card, and she's been a supporter of no cashless debit card for a long time, and she's stepped up as an independent for the Reason Party in Victoria. Yeah, so, but really to get rid of the card, it's ALP1. It's got to be ALP1. We've got to get rid of the LNP and the right wing. The right wing will hold us back. They'll never give the people what they need. You know. Yeah, I agree with you, Jane. Oh, Darren Hinch still supports the cashless debit card in Victoria. Yes, thanks, Ron. The Justice Party still strongly supports the cashless debit card, even though we've made him very aware that it impacts sexual assault survivors and women fleeing domestic violence. He still staunchly supports it. So if you're in Victoria, Darren Hinch is a no-no. Because he's still down there and he's still got his little party running, okay? All right, guys. Well, I'll leave it at that. And thanks for listening, and we'll go from there. People need... Oh, we've got a... Oh, here we go. We've got a welfare basher. People need to start working. There will be no welfare income eventually. You don't know how it works, do you? That comment, Sherry Abington, seeing as you're so game to come here and vilify people on Social Security. I'll just give you some stats. Out of $169 billion a year spent on Social Security payments, which pays for all of the payments, it returns $750 billion in revenues back to the government. So the government actually make a profit. Social Security is an economic stabiliser for this country to assist in keeping businesses open so that they can employ people. Without it, we have a depression, right? It also acts as a cap for our inflation. Okay? Now, 7% of people are classified as unemployed. Okay? 60% of people are on age pension. What are you talking about? That's the facts. They won't keep paying. Sherry, you have no idea how it works, do you? Who's paying? Who's paying? We are a sovereign currency nation. I don't know who you think pays Social Security, but it's not taxes. Okay? And without a Social Security system, then you end up with as many as, I don't know, 8 million people on the streets unable to pay. Now, let me tell you what happens if we take away Social Security. How many people out there are living in private rented properties and those owners rely on that rent to pay the mortgage? If you take away the Social Security, who's going to pay the rents? Who's going to pay the mortgages? Who's the main beneficiary of a Social Security recipient? Whoever their landlord is. If they can't pay their bills, they'll all go bankrupt. Then they go on living on the streets. Sherry, I think you need to get some education about how our system actually works. Okay? Because we have a digitalised system already. And, yeah. I'm not going into Economics 101 on here. I'm sorry that you felt the need to come here and straight away welfare bash. You know what I mean? I don't do that. We don't do that on this page. We just don't do it. You know? They are taking everything from people, Australian people now. Well, you either stand up and vote to stop these things from happening. Like, if you don't want the cashless debit card, then vote Labor in so we can get rid of the bloody thing and we get to keep our Social Security. We don't privatise everything, which is what the LNP and the mining magnates want. Okay? But to go on about if people start working, I mean, we've got a candidate here who wants to encourage pensioners back to work. Are we supposed to work till we drop? And I'm sick of this, you must work, work, work. I get trolled all the time. Can't even die in bloody peace in this country without somebody saying, working, working. Please don't get me triggered on this, right? Because I really don't want to go down there with that at the moment. Right? I've just spent a good half hour or more on here explaining things. Maybe go back to the beginning of my video, right, and go from there. But Sherry, you don't get away with vilifying people, not even a little bit, right? Because there's lots more to this economy about than working people. For a start, the people who volunteer in this country contribute 10% to our GDP for working for no wages. That means that the government's making 10% on GDP in profits off of people and their free labour. We exploit overseas workers that come here to pick fruit for us. We exploit just about anybody, and that needs to change. Right? You know? And you know, coming here and saying people need to start working, okay? There's 800,000 people that are job seekers, that are able and fit and that are looking for work. I'm just going to break this really down, okay? There is, at any one time, less than 200,000 jobs available, and the majority of those jobs are gig economy, commission-based, or casualised work. They do not earn enough wages to be self-sufficient, pay rent, pay bills, and give people some sort of quality of life. So that results in over 1.5 million people that are also working and receiving Social Security payment top-ups because the big corporations love that. Why would Woolies and Coles and all of them pay people 38 hours a week and give them full-time jobs when they can put them on for 15 hours a week and people have to claim Social Security. It's a lovely rort that the corporations have learned from America. Walmart in America is the biggest one for doing it, where they pay such low wages. All of their staff are on welfare as well because the corporations don't want to pay the wages, or they don't want to give people enough hours. Okay? We have 500,000 people now that have chronic, severe disabilities, health issues, right, that are unable to work or unable to work full-time, that are on job seeker, okay, that cannot get work or cannot satisfy, expecting cancer patients that are on chemo treatments to look for work on the days off that they're not doing chemo. It's like the LNP and their punitive systems that are backed up by One Nation and Craig Kelly. That's cruelty, right? But that's right wing for you. That's what they're like. Right? Then we have single parents on parenting payment. Parenting payment is just that, for being a parent, to stay home and look after your children. If I'm getting narky, it's because I get trolled 100 million times a day all the time about this sort of stuff. Right? All right. Sherry's getting mixed up about the cashless debit card and the basics card. They're two different programs. Okay, and I'll finish what I'm saying first, then I'll address that, Sherry. Okay. You know, we have 3.1 million age pensioners that are supposed to be retired, but One Nation wants them to go back to work. In fact, a lot of people want to go back to work because it's all about work, 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 remember? Because you're not... I'm sick of the attitude that we're not viable human beings unless we're slaving our guts for a boss and we never get to have the luxuries that the boss has. That's the bottom line. It's called capitalism. Socialism for the rich and capitalism for the poor. All right? But you're forgetting the smallest amount of people... Sherry says, I'm not the enemy, I help people all the time. So why did you come here welfare bashing straight away? More people need to work. I don't get it. We don't do that on this page. We never have. It's one of the first rules is no vilification, not jumping in on the get a job mantra, right? Now, cashless debit cards have been going since 2016. Basics cards been going since the LNP government as in the Northern Territory intervention, since 2007. Two different forced income management programs. Okay? The Cape York, all right, is a different program altogether. Unfortunately, that's been buggered up by the cashless debit card now. The Cape York program was a good model because it was community run, caseworkers, and people could get off their basics card, which they can no longer do in the Cape York. So, but please, don't stumble in, you know. Oh, I don't know what you mean by they have to protect themselves, so they have to make their life stable. I don't know what you mean. Oh dear. I don't know what that comment means or what it stands for. Look, at the moment I'm not getting the comments in the right order, so I'm not going to make any more comments on it. But put it this way, Sherry, we don't come on this page telling people to get working. Okay, that's just not done here. Because it's just not possible. Well, I'm going to go, and I'll say take care to you guys, and thanks for listening. And hopefully, and as a lasting thing, for the trolls that want to come and have a go at me, I'm not a member of a political party. I'm not running as a candidate. I'm not vying for votes or a $200,000 job at the end of this. My goal is to see the cashless debit card ended and the dignity and the freedoms and the legal rights and the human rights restored for all of the people that have been forced onto that cashless debit card, right? And then have their lives back. That's my goal. Okay, that's what my goal was in 2015 when I started this. That's what my team's goal is about. That's what Amanda's goal is about. We are here for the card holders. All right? To stand up for their rights that have been removed in law by politicians that are playing the fake freedom fighter card to try and trick people because they only want the votes. They don't give a stuff about the people. Simple as that. All right, guys. Take care. See ya.